Do you guys like impressions? Oh, good. I love when people do impressions. They tell you the name of the impression, and then 1 second later, they tell you the name of the impression again. Like you're going to forget. So this is my impression of a person doing impressions. My impression of a person doing impressions. Do you guys like impressions? Yeah? You do? Okay, good. This is my impression of a person doing impressions. My impression of a person doing impressions. Do you guys like impressions? Oh, good. You're gonna like this.
TBTL.
You're talking about socialism.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about not covering every square inch of populated America with houses and strip malls until you can't even remember what happens when you stand in a meadow at dusk. What happens in the meadow at dusk?
Nothing.
Everything. Everything.
Nothing.
Everything. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I was just trying to find E.T.
Hey, E.T., classic Spielberg.
Oh,
Weaver of dreams.
I love when his finger lights up.
That's how you can tell he's an alien.
And his face.
And his face.
I don't know if it's video games or what, but it's so unfair to, after something like this, to blame people in the backseat or say they deserved it.
Just an automatic meatball.
No, definitely. Yeah. Literally, no. Yeah. Yeah. No. For sure, no.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Well, all right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Thursday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
Meet the next generation of podcast stars.
My name's Luke Burbank. I'm your host.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Coming to you from the Madrona Hills studio, perched high above the mighty Columbia, where things start off a bit cloudy, a bit cloud fog this morning, but looks like it's burning off now. I'm seeing some blue sky. It's like the opening credits of The Simpsons as I look out over the mighty Columbia.
Oh, Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
Here we are, folks, at episode 4,512 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
On these hot days, sometimes it's fun to sneak away and get in the air-conditioned comfort of a movie theater, but if you go to really any of the leading movie theaters now, including AMC, for a movie, and you are there early, there is a good chance you'll be watching a bunch of advertisements. And I don't mean movie trailers, I just mean straight-up ads.
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
And the filmmakers of America and the movie studios are outraged. They're very angry about this development, and we will talk about it. It's a Thursday, a.k.a. a Blur's Day, so we'll
My birthday today.
do the Blur's Day messages, and we'll also say howdy doody to this guy, longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. He's freshly back from the barber shop in advance of next week's TBTL-a-thon.
If you got cute hair, I'm gonna say, damn, girl, you got some cute hair.
He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. So let me get this straight. When you look out your window, you see a small yellow child writing the same phrase over and over on a blackboard.
I do. Out in the sky.
See, you always talk about the view, and you've said it's Simpsons-esque, but I don't know if I've ever really kind of pictured it that way before.
Yeah.
That
There's
is
another
really
kid
amazing.
getting kicked out of band practice because they're jamming too hard on the sax.
On the saxophone?
Saxophone.
Yeah, okay. You know,
actually, Andrew,
I gotta say, I get it now, Luke. I get it.
Hold on. Please, stop the tape. What you're seeing is Luke Burbank. No, I didn't really mean stop the tape. That's what the guy says on the thing. I like the tape. It helps me. Thank you. By the way, that's very responsive of you.
Did you feel like you were really floating in space there for a second? It's funny how that
did. I didn't like it.
We'll do the majority of the show without that music underneath us, but somehow you gotta ease out of it. You
if
can't.
If it goes away too early, I believe the guy on the Tim and Eric thing says stop the tape, right?
Stop the tape. That's a bad.
What you're seeing is a bad hug.
What you're seeing is a bad hug. That's a very funny sketch sketch from Tim and Eric, featuring the guy who plays Leland in Twin Peaks. But I think we stopped playing it because there became too much real news about workplace
bad
misconduct and bad hugs at the workplace. So we kind of retired that for a while. But I think it's safe. Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay, speaking of The Simpsons, I just had this realization the other day. I actually forget who hipped me to it. Somebody said this, and I had never thought of it this way. In fact, it might have been Siblings Weekend. I'm not sure. But speaking of The Simpsons, right, and the iconic opening scenes and just the whole layout of Springfield. Of course, Matt Groening famously is from Portland, the creator of The Simpsons, and a lot of the references in The Simpsons are from things in Portland. There's a Lovejoy Street, there's a Flanders Street, stuff like that.
I was very old by the time I learned all that. I think you taught me that on this show.
I have to say, it never stops being fun for me if I'm driving down a street and I see that it's Flanders, and I realize that's what gave Matt Groening the idea for that person being named Flanders. Well, from where I live, perched high above the mighty Columbia, I can look across the river into Oregon. I don't say Oregon, I say Oregon, because that's how you say it. And over across the river is what used to be the Trojan nuclear facility.
Oh.
And when I was a kid, it's gone. Most of it is gone. The cooling towers are now gone.
Oh.
It used to provide a significant amount of power to the state of Oregon, and then I think what happened at some point was
a little rod got caught in one of the workers' jumpsuits, right? And he went home with it, and they had to shut it down.
Yes, I'm seeing that actually in the sky right now. The whole thing's playing out. Someone's scanning a baby at the grocery store? That's got to be bad for the baby. If people don't know the opening credits of The Simpsons, they think I've just fully lost my mind right now based on the words I'm saying. But anyway, and so I remember being a kid, and we used to go down to, we'd go from Seattle. We'd go to various church-related things in Oregon every year. One thing was called the Festival of the Sun, and that was S-O-N, like the Son of God.
I had more of a Dothraki kind of thing going on there. Oh, interesting.
No. There were blood riders there, but no, it was the Festival of the Sun, as in we are getting together to worship Jesus, to camp out and worship Jesus, which I friggin' loved that thing as a kid because it was a chance to hang out with a bunch of kids I didn't know and like make new friendships and run around and play fun, little games and stuff. But anyway, on our way down, I remember being a little kid and we'd be on I-5 and we'd be driving past. I mean, how could 10-year-old Luke have ever known that section of I-5 would be one day where he would, there'd be a thing called podcasting, and he would live in a house up on the hill above I-5, and he would do that thing called podcasting for his job. But in those days, I just remember being in the back of our Ford van and looking over and seeing those cooling towers of the Trojan nuclear facility and getting a very kind of uneasy feeling because I didn't know how nuclear power worked. I just knew that nuclear was scary. I knew that there was a chance that maybe the Russians wanted to nuclear bomb us and that would kill everyone in America or something. Like I associate it with scariness.
Yeah, I mean we associated the word nuclear with hiding under our desks for a nuclear drill, right?
Exactly. And so I just remember I remember that pretty vividly from my childhood, just looking across the river and seeing this thing that filled me with fear. Anyway, I was retelling this story to someone recently, and they said, that's probably where Matt Groening got the cooling towers for Springfield. I mean, that's a standard look. I think all nuclear power plant cooling towers had a similar look. So
sure.
He probably was aware of the imagery of it. But just the idea that maybe Matt Groening saw those towers or that tower from here, and it was inspired him to put it in Springfield. It's kind of funny to me. It makes me feel connected to The Simpsons, even if it's not true. And by the way, nobody email me with evidence to the contrary because I like this now. I need this in my life.
Well, I'm trying to remember, and I'm looking now at what the cooling towers look like in The Simpsons opening because I felt like as you were talking, I thought what you were going to say was like in a parallel universe, if they hadn't shut that thing down, where you're sitting right now, you would be looking down at those cooling towers.
I would be.
Not unlike the opening shot of The Simpsons. So I wanted to see, is there a river nearby? But no, in my head, I was catering it too much to your situation, but it is kind of tucked in a kind of hilly area, and you kind of get a view down at the cooling towers that you would potentially have had they not shut it down, which is why I've always been really like, I'm out there protesting for more nukes. That's kind of what I'm always protesting for, so that you can have this reality.
Yeah. You asked people to stop visualizing world peace.
I did, and start using your turn
And you also had
signal.
that bumper sticker that said "some nukes."
Some nukes question mark. My favorite bumper sticker still is visualize using your turn signal, and I think it's just funny. I think it's funny just because my friend Paulie was really into that, but he didn't have it or anything. But I think that it was his favorite bumper sticker, and so somehow like I'm drafting off of his joy about that. You know, of all of my irritations in life, I guess. Actually, to be honest with you, I do see something here that I've never seen drivers do anywhere else, which is somewhat irritating, but not enough for me to, I mean, there are so many things to rant about, like whatever, but it's very strange. I notice here in the Pacific Northwest, people do not turn on their turn signals until it's no longer helpful, and then they'll turn it on at the very last minute. So if you're at a light behind a car, right, and you're waiting for that light to change, if they're signaling that they're going to take a left when the light turns green, you might know to give a little bit of distance because you're going to go around them in the intersection. Also,
That's
a lot of
super
them don't pull into the
helpful
intersection.
information for them to provide for you.
But what they do is they'll sit there for 2 minutes or a minute while the light is red, and then it turns green, and then when they're about to make the turn or already making the turn, they turn on their turn signal. You're like, that's not what signaling means. Signaling means you're communicating something that's about to happen. You're signaling it.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I also don't like that. I think my theory about this being the inspiration for Matt Groening is kind of falling apart because, for one thing, there was only one. Looks like there was only one cooling tower.
Oh, and
of
one
course,
in real life.
And I think in real life, there's only one cooling tower, and of course, the Simpsons, there's two of them.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now.
So I don't know. I mean, and again, it's not like Matt Groening was unfamiliar with the concept of what a nuclear cooling tower looked like. He probably didn't write it into Springfield as a plot point for Homer. Also, I wonder, because this is where I'm going to go on, I'm going to try to guess at the history of The Simpsons.
Good.
Obviously, it started with a cartoon called Life in Hell that Matt Groening, right? I mean, was that his first thing that he did?
That's my understanding. Now, I don't know if these Simpsons characters ever showed up in something called Life in Hell. I don't know if that's what you said, but I do know that that was his earlier project, Life in Hell, which I think existed for a long time, well into the existence of The Simpsons as well, right? It was printed in free press.
And was not funny.
Yeah, I always thought, like, someday I'll get it.
A day has yet to come for me. Like, it's, I mean, it's one of those funny things where, first of all, of course, I, like all God-fearing people in America, I am so grateful that The Simpsons exist. That show has provided me with some of my greatest entertainment and joy and comedy over the course of my life. And I say that really and seriously. Like, I love The Simpsons so much. I'm so glad it exists. I don't know how much credit Matt Groening gets for it other than he drew the characters initially, and then I think a bunch of Harvard Lampoon grads took it and ran with it.
That's an interesting theory because, yeah, like first of all, the earliest, like you said, I never was a huge Life in Hell person. I'll bet you, just knowing our audience, I'll bet you there are people who adore that in our audience, and I'm willing to say, like, maybe I kind of just don't get it, or it's just I'll never understand the context for it. But I agree with you that Life in Hell always like had like the kind of contours of something that should be funny, but I don't ever remember it making me laugh. And then those earliest Simpsons days from the Tracy Ullman show, like, they weren't particularly funny. Again, at least not for me at my age. Like, it eventually became funny because you had people like Conan O'Brien writing for them.
Exactly. I mean, that's sort of my sense of the thing, is that, like, Matt Groening was writing Life in Hell. It was being published in, like, I don't know, like the Willamette Week or something, or probably was going out in a bunch of, like, free weeklies. And then I think it was James L. Brooks, the producer, was maybe approached by the Tracy Ullman show to go try to find animated content or something. Somehow James L. Brooks and Matt Groening start. And I'll give Matt Groening credit because I think he did create, James Brooks comes to him and says, let's create some animated content. And then he has this idea for a family called The Simpsons. I'm looking now at the Wikipedia page. It says, let's see, he thought Simpson was a funny name because it sounded close to simpleton.
Oh.
The shorts became part of the Tracy Ullman show on April 19th, 1987. And then after 3 seasons, the sketch was developed into a half-hour primetime show and became Fox's first series. It just feels like one of those things where it's like, Matt Groening gets credit for birthing The Simpsons. I mean, it wouldn't exist without him. It was his idea. But then, luckily, the show got put into foster care and was raised by a different family that was funny.
Mm-hmm. And again, when I try to think of, just to like sort of shadow box a little bit with, you know, what maybe some people who love those early seasons might be thinking is like, I guess the idea was like, American content at the time is a lot of like very treacly family sitcoms where, yeah, they have their little troubles here and there because somebody got an F on their report card, or our maid is a robot child for some reason. But
I mean, that sounds pretty dark and dystopian,
actually,
really.
Yeah, I know that was a really bad one to bring up. I'll be honest with you. But anyway,
the child robot maids are unionizing. And Reginald Vell Johnson is putting it down.
Listen, it sounds dark, but don't worry. She slept standing up in a closet, Luke. Like, they took care of her. Don't worry about it. She got her downtime, too. Like, it never made sense to me why. We're talking about Small Wonder for people who just think this is a continuation of the aphasia that Luke and I are both sharing right now. We're talking about a show called Small Wonder, where a family had a secret robot, but in order to pass her off as a human, for some reason, they dressed her up like their little daughter, who was also a maid and wore a maid's outfit, right? Am I wrong? As I'm saying it out loud, that can't be right. Why would you not want anybody to know that she's a robot? And if you didn't want people to know she's a robot, why would you make her your personal maid?
I've got to be honest with you. Small Wonder is a huge blind spot for me. I know that it existed. I know that her name was it Vicky?
Yeah,
maybe?
Good call.
It's one of those things that's been talked about so much by our generation, because I think so many people our age watched it and were either thought it was amazing or thought it was ridiculous or somewhere in between. So I'm aware of it in the culture. I don't think I've ever watched an episode of it. So I'm really, really going to be I'm unhelpful on the plot points of Small Wonder.
Anyway, I could go into my story about how Small Wonder actually led me to run away from home, but we'll save that for another day. Also, you can go back probably to the 2012 episode where I was a guest and I told that story. But I do guess that the humor, the original sort of subversive humor of The Simpsons, wasn't the Conan O'Brien writing before he got there. It was just kind of the look, what if you turned all of these cheesy tropes on their head, and the one kid actually was a little demon kid, you know, and the father was like a bad dad who was literally strangling his kid. I mean, I guess it was a reaction to that, but again, when I go back and watch that early stuff, it just doesn't make me laugh.
Yeah, the rule of thumb for me, I've said this many times on the show, is if their heads are too wavy, I'm going to go get some gravy.
Oh, yeah, you always say that.
I do. I always say that. No, there was the animation style changed too. And in the earliest days, it was there was this kind of sort of, I don't know if it was because literally it was harder to animate things in those days or because it was a stylistic choice, but the tops of their heads kind of vibrate differently than later than the kind of Conan era. So once you get into once their heads have stabilized, then I'm in for it.
You sound like a doctor. So this is I came into the show today literally thinking, do I want to get into this? I don't know if I do or not.
That's always a good sign.
Well, sort of. It's a good sign for you and me. I don't know that this is really super great for the audience, and the problem is that's sort of the point that I want to make. But it's time to do it. We got to talk about Office Hours Live with Tim Heidecker. Okay, so you and I adore Tim Heidecker. At least I adore Tim Heidecker. He's one of I would put him up there with one of my favorite comedians and just comedian contributors to the culture during my adulthood. Right, I think that he's a genius in a lot of ways. And for a long time now, he's been doing this podcast called Office Hours Live, and it is a podcast, but they stream it live, and there's more visual kind of presentation to it. Often I think he's kind of standing and using a stand-up mic or something, and his producers
it's
are
almost sort
him.
of a little reminiscent of TMZ.
Oh,
the TV show. I think that's kind of what they're sending up a little bit because, the TMZ TV show, Harvey Levin, the founder of TMZ, and also his kind of co-host guy, whose name I don't know, they're often kind of standing in the middle of like the TMZ newsroom. And there's kind of a, the producers are kind of sitting around at their desks and they're kind of like firing show ideas and pitch ideas. And it's a kind of a rambunctious conversation. I think that's a little bit of what's being parodied with Office Hours.
I could totally see that, especially from the visual standpoint. And you and I have mostly been exposed to it. You more so than me at this point, although I think it was starting to trickle into my feeds early on. But then on TikTok, you started just seeing a lot of clips from it. They'll have guests on, like, famous comedians, but also just like him, his buddy and producer Vic Berger, and then
who I love, DJ Doug Pound.
DJ Doug Pound. I think those are the three main characters, right? So it's like three friends, and they're like it is kind of cool. They're playing drops all the time.
I love that part.
And you and Vic is really like focused on playing weird audio and playing drops, and then also visual drops too. Like they'll be talking about something. They were talking about how bad the bad Kansas was in an episode I was watching last night, and so they're pulling up photos of Kansas of like the guy, I guess he would jump while playing the piano, so they're just pulling, and it's kind of fun to see these visual drops being sort of pulled up. And so it is a show. You could draw some comparisons between what you and I are doing, which is two people talking with a lot of audio drops. I mean, it's kind of a classic chitter chatter kind of podcast, right? And you and I have mostly, as I said, been exposed to it via clips, and you keep saying, like, I've never really sat down to watch a full episode of this, and neither have I, to watch or listen to a full episode. And yesterday, I was kind of in a funny mood. I kind of like got done with some stuff, and I was like, I'm going to throw some darts, and I don't know what I saw or what triggered me to think, maybe this is the time to check out Office Hours.
Well, there's no
Live.
Mariners.
Yeah, I do. That's a big thing too. I was listening to I was listening to a lot of Chad and Jeremy while watering the plants yesterday. Luke, you want summer vibes? You put on your Spotify or whatever.
Don't you know that it hurts me so to say goodbye to you?
Create an algorithm using that as the starting song and go outside and water your plants, Luke. That is
Andrew, I almost
summertime.
sent you a picture of my star jasmine yesterday.
I almost sent you a photo of me watering my.
It's blooming. I'm getting actual star jasmine on there, and I was like, I felt like I was hitting you up too much with pizza content. I was like, I'll leave this poor man alone. But I was out there watering my star jasmine, thinking about you out there watering your tomatoes.
It's the best smell in the world. It's literally my favorite smell is star jasmine. So, anyway, I was listening to like oldies, and then I pulled out my Chad and Jeremy record, literally, and I'm listening to it, and then I'm like, but you're right. That's what it was. I had a baseball shaped hole in my listening schedule, and so anyway, something was like, Office Hours. So I'm like, I want to find a full episode, and then I make a decision. I'm like, do I want to just like listen to the podcast version or watch the podcast as they put it on YouTube? And I decided, why don't you just put your phone up, like kind of like balance it up on this bookcase here and just like kind of watch it. So I put on the latest episode that was like, an hour plus or whatever. And I'm like, I'll just start with our latest one. Now, for shows like this, and especially because you and I produce a show like this, and because I like shows like this, I don't mind a little barrier to entry when it comes to inside jokes and the rhythm of shows or whatever. Like, I think that's the fun part of it, and maybe I just haven't broken through yet. But I also sort of really like to dip into like sort of the height of what they do on a regular basis, if that makes sense. So in other words, I'm going to get into the show. I don't want to dial back to episode number 1 and catch up, because I want to hear what they're doing now, what they've evolved to do. But the problem is I put on the latest episode, and I'm like 10 minutes in before I realize Tim isn't even in this one. Tim's like, they had some fill-in people, and it was like very, very almost sketch comedy-esque. I'm not even going to get into it, but it was kind of funny, but kind of weird. Had my attention, but then when I realized, wait a second, Tim is gone for this episode, I'm like, this is not going to give me an example of what the show is really like. I want to know what the show is like. So then I watched the one prior to that, and this one I stuck around with for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and I got to say, Luke, it might just not be for me. And this is something where maybe I know Tim Heidecker has been on this show before. I don't think with me on it.
Probably never again now that you're going to roast him.
But like, it was hard for me. Well, first of all, when I hit play on this, YouTube gave me an auto-generated ad that I guess was sort of telling. Now, keep in mind, like, this is Tim Heidecker. He's a very, like, progressive-minded guy who's, outspoken on issues that I really appreciate.
Yeah, he probably has our politics.
Oh,
presumably.
definitely. Like, I follow him on social media. He's out there, and he's not quiet about things either, But this is a kind of a bro-y feeling show because you have him and his two bros behind him, and they definitely. This is where I'm trying to separate out what we do with what they do because there's tons of inside jokes or whatever, but there was something that seemed a little bit broier about it, and maybe it's because this auto ad. I've been served millions and millions of ads in my life, and I've literally never seen this one. I've seen other ads that are sort of toxic in some ways, but it's like some dude bro. This is the automatic ad before the show plays, and this is not on them. This is on what YouTube is serving up based on
right, exactly. It's just
this
like
is not on them
they've
at all.
agreed to allow YouTube to use this real estate for whatever it sees fit.
And honestly, not even allowed. We don't control it anymore. We have a YouTube page. We can't keep their ads off it. YouTube is just putting ads on shit now. Like, I'm furious about the fact that our viewers and listeners have to watch an ad before a Hey Dummies video that we're not getting any money from. But anyway, the algorithm said, "Hey, play this ad for people who like to watch this Office Hours Live," and it's like one of those bro-y guys, kind of a mustache, kind of a bearded guy, not in like some sort of fabulous shape or something. And the whole thing is he's T.J. Mackey. He's like a real life T.J. Mackey from Magnolia.
Whoa.
He literally says he's not.
So he's like a speed seduction expert.
Well,
He is
it's not
basically
even speed seduction. It's about maybe that's the wrong characterization. Then he starts talking. It's unclear what he's talking about at first, but it's very like kind of like motivational. Like, you got to do this, and then he says you're addicted to the pee. And it's about being addicted to women. It's like some sort of incel thing. And I should have hit skip immediately, but I was so like astounded by what I was seeing. It was like, it's almost like parody tape that we play. I thought it was parody at first. I thought it was Tim maybe doing something that was some next level parody about, but no, I guess I was exposed to this part of the internet that I'm just protected from, of just dude bros talking in that way of like, maybe you like the way I'm being aggressive here. Maybe you need confrontation in your life because it's time. You're realizing there's a reason you're seeing this ad right now. Join our program, and no, this isn't going to be easy. You're not just going to watch this for an hour and maybe enjoy it. No, there's homework involved. We are going to do it. And think about it. Why are you still watching this right now? It's because you're addicted to the pee, and you're just like, and by the way, in saying that quote, I'm not cleaning it up. Okay. Like, that is what he's saying, literally. Yeah. And I was like, what does this say about what YouTube thinks the audience of this show is? That's not on them, but it was a hell of an introduction. I was blown away.
Now, there is a chance that next week when we are broadcasting TB Telethon 16 live, that could YouTube put that ad in front of our show, theoretically?
I don't have an answer for that, Luke. Well, they wouldn't put an ad for the live show. They couldn't interrupt our live feed with ads. But when we do Hey Dummies videos, sometimes you click on them and there will be some ad, but all the ones I see are for, like, I don't know, lawn care stuff or whatever, because they're pretty dialed into our show, So I've never seen anything offensive. I do wonder what would happen because I found this, like, again, he didn't say anything specifically controversial. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like it's this guy in this ad. It was just like shocking that, like, you hear about this incel culture and these dude bros are going to teach you how to be incels or whatever, but it's also like theoretical to me, and it was just weird to be watching it. And then I kind of
put you in a weird state of mind rolling into Office Hours Live.
I was like, whoa! But then so now keep in mind, so I'm watching an Office Hours Live that is now the second newest one because I want to hear Tim on it. And then I noticed that this is the only one that I watched the most of. And again, maybe 15 minutes. It might not have been the show they would want us to start with because Tim was remote. He's usually in studio with them, but he's clearly, something's going on. He said, like, we're just back from our little summer break. Usually we have guests. We're not having guests today because we're just going to be catching up after our summer break. So again, like, if you and I are doing a show after we've been gone for a week or two or something like that, that first show might not be the show that we want everybody to hear as a new listener. So I'm just like trying to give them as much coverage as possible. But the thing that I really took away from this was, yes, you have three guys who are funny, or I know for sure that Tim Heidecker is funny. He's made me laugh a lot, more than most people in my life. but like there was just nothing there for me. And it really felt like, and this is where I'm going to compare it to what we're doing. And maybe I'm in this mindset because we're getting into the TB Telethon, and maybe I'm belying what I'm about to say with this long ramble that I'm in the middle of. But like, they seem to take no care for the audience or acknowledge in any way that there are other people listening. And I know they are, because they have so much more showmanship around a lot of the things they do. One of the episodes I clicked on, they were all dressed as clowns. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're putting work into this. They're not phoning it in. But whatever the style was, and again, people feel that way when they listen to our show and you break on through. But I feel like you and I are at least presenting like guys who know radio or something. Like even now, while I'm embarrassed about this, I'm still thinking about the audience laughing at me. You know what I mean? Whereas they just seem to have this sort of sarcastic, like kind of grunting communication with each other. And just kind of like, it feels much more like, maybe it's just like Camaro Kev is a great podcaster too, but you and Camaro Kev just being in the car laughing at something that you have 20 years of history on jokes about, and there's nobody else in the car, so you don't have to bring them along with you. That's what this felt like. There felt like no bringing the audience along at all. And it just, I watched it for like 15 minutes. I was like, well, I think I'm going to stop this now. And I still, I want to like this show so much. It has all the elements I like. I like things being live. I like Tim Heidecker. I like this partnership that they have. But it was really shocking at how inaccessible I found it.
Well, the thing for me that has been tough, and I've expressed this to you off air when we're talking about it, is that I kind of can't figure out the Tim Heidecker character that he's doing as the host of Office Hours Live. Like, I'm not sure, because it's a little bit more, it's kind of bro-y and kind of acerbic in a way that I think it's a very, very subtle character that he's doing. Because we did ever so briefly have Tim and Eric on this show by phone, and they were both lovely, which was such a relief, because going into the interview, I was like, I don't know if they're going to be in character the whole time. I don't know if they're going to be intentionally making this hard on me because they're doing a bit or something. And they were just like super nice, normal people. So my assumption is that in real life, Tim Heidecker is like a nice, gracious person. But he also does a lot of characters. Like, there's this, have you seen the thing where it's actually very, very funny, where it's clearly a setup, but it's like Tim Heidecker is doing some kind of presentation. He's doing like a theater show or something. And then they do a Q&A in the audience, and it's Tim Robinson is in the audience.
Yes, I have seen that. I've seen that clip going around, or that went around.
And it's really funny, but the energy that Tim Heidecker is bringing in that moment, in that clip where he's on stage and he's acting, I mean, he set this up. Obviously, they set it up so that Tim Robinson would be acting like he doesn't really like Tim Heidecker's act. But the way that Tim Heidecker is kind of dismissive of him and kind of like, it's weird. It's a very subtle character that I'm just not quite sure how I feel about it. And I'm nervous that it is a little bit too much of how Tim Heidecker might really actually be, because it's so subtle that I don't know if he's doing a bit or not. And so that's the hang up for me, is that like, he's just kind of sort of standing, or I don't know. Again, I don't know if he's doing an impression of a guy who hosts a show like that, or if that's just him hosting the show. And the not knowing that part throws me a little bit.
So I don't know what lies in the hearts of Heideckers, but I've, watched a lot of his stuff, and I've seen the stuff that I know what you're talking about when he's doing characters, but he does the characters so well that you can't tell. Like, he does some over-the-top jerkiness, like his last stand-up special or whatever stand-up special.
Or like even on cinema, he's being ridiculous, so you can tell that he's doing a bit. This is different for me.
Yes, and then he did the whole stand-up thing where his whole persona as the stand-up guy was this sort of like toxic, dumb stand-up guy, and that's a bit. And then you're right, there are other things where it's more subtle than that. I will tell you this, and I could be wrong, and again, the only way to find out is to have him on the show and say, I didn't like the episode I was watching. Can you defend yourself? So, I don't know, send the email. Nobody sent the email. But he...
Everybody be cool.
But he did not seem... There did not seem to be any character going on in this. This really did seem like three guys who kind of have their own little friendship language. And like I said, a big chunk of it was them talking about how they don't like the band Kansas. And I guess, actually, now that I'm talking about it a little bit, I mean, there was some charm in that. I think it was Tim. One of them told a story about how some friend of theirs had had a little routine when they were on road trips. You would go and you would buy a cassette or a CD at a gas station, and the rule this guy had was you would just pick one up at random, but you would have to listen to it all the way through 2 times to really give it its day in court during the road trip.
That's an interesting idea. I kind of like that.
And something about like they got this Kansas record, and then Vic keeps dropping just like this tiny little clip of like a organ solo that is just like so bad. And I got to say, now that I'm talking about it, like maybe if I watched this all the way through and then watch a couple more episodes, I would maybe feel more like I'm hanging with my friends and I would like it more. But I was a little bit shocked at the lack of, again, sort of, even at the very beginning, anything that would bring the audience along. And so, and it just sort of, now, Heidecker also was remote, and he said, like, I usually am in the studio for this, and I think they also had a delay issue, which you and I know that from doing this show. If you're on a spotty internet somewhere in a hotel, it really messes up the rhythm of a conversation between friends if you're like, like you're starting and stopping. And so I want to give him a lot of kind of coverage there, and maybe I got to go back and just find the right episode to watch. But, like, I was both a little disappointed in that and a little bit proud of what we do. A little bit.
Less shame to take it back to the Simpsons.
Yes. Like I said, I'm not saying that we always hit it out of the park, but we are doing this for people in a way that show felt like they were doing it for themselves completely.
Yeah, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, because so much of the time I spend just kind of denigrating the show to anyone who will listen. And just being like I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who's it's complicated, and I need to be a little bit vague, but there was a gig that there was somebody reached out to CBS PR, the PR wing of CBS, to see about hiring me to do a job next year, like a kind of like an appearance. And that person reached out to me, and then somehow I got looped in with somebody who basically represents people to do speeches and appearances and whatnot. And that person called me, and we were talking. And the reason I'm being kind of vague is because it's like I somehow found out that basically this person calling me, they then get some huge percentage of what money that would be paid to me for the job. Like, this person went from someone I didn't know existed to being like, well, my cut of it is this. And I was like, wait, what? I don't even know you. But anyway, that's all complicated and boring, and probably will end up costing me the job if I get too detailed about it. But I was trying to explain the other stuff I do to this person, the other kinds of jobs I have. I was explaining TBTL, and he was like, "Oh, really? I'll have to tune in." And I was like, "Yeah, well, you're gonna hear it, and you're gonna just kind of not understand why anyone listens to this." But so that's kind of my general stance with the show. That being said, I'm with you that, like, actually low key, you and I are both, I'm sorry, but professional broadcasters who have been doing this for like a long time and are thinking constantly, even in these moments, even as we're saying this is boring, we're thinking, how do we make it less boring? We're thinking, how do we, it's like, I sometimes will describe people, it's like a conversation with your friend, but turned up by 15 clicks or something. Because if you and I were to actually talk on this show the way that you and I might just talk on the phone, like if I called you about something, if people heard that conversation, they would go, oh, wow, they are kind of turning it on for the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, yeah.
Because
I mean, we are pretty
that.
nasty to each other off air, to be honest.
It's real Martin and Lewis.
I don't even know what
fact,
that is. Oh,
well, they famously hated each other.
They didn't get along. It took me a second to remember who Martin and Lewis were. They didn't get along. I did not know that.
There was a long period of I think, estrangement between them.
Oh.
And then I think there was a period of time where they didn't talk, but they would perform together. So they would just like go on stage and do the show and then leave or something. I think it was tense there for a while. But the point is, what this sounds like when people hear this show, you and I, it sounds like we're just talking. And that is what's happening, but there is actually some oomph behind it. Because if you heard us actually just talking, you'd be like, oh. Even the hardcorest of TBTL listeners would be like, okay, this one's a clunker. I got to move on. Like, the only way for this to work is for it to be performative to a degree, and for it to be us thinking, yeah, people are hearing this. This is a performance. And so it might sound like we're just turning on the line and just BSing, but there is a little bit that goes into it. And when you hear someone else doing it where they literally are just talking, you kind of notice the difference.
Yeah, and I want to give this more of a shot, and maybe they're just getting back from break and they'll ease into something that is more accessible. And again, they often have like famous comedians on as guests and stuff. And I'm not even somebody who tunes in for. I'm not somebody who like kind of hunts for celebrity episodes of podcasts. I actually, that's what's interesting here is usually it's, let's say most of the programming I listen to is sports programming. I don't want the interviews. Usually my favorite parts of any kind of show that has multiple hosts is those hosts talking to each other, or if there is an interview, my favorite part is when the interviewee leaves and they start talking about how did that go, like that. That's more my vibe anyway. So it's not like I'm waiting for stars to come back to Office Hours Live, but I don't want to like totally dismiss it after giving it one shot. And it might have been one of those shows where, again, there are a lot of weird factors involved with a delay and him not being there and everything. But it's just like you and I have had many conversations off air where we both end up by saying, yeah, we really got to give that show a shot because we'd only been seeing clips of it. And it's the first one that I like really started from the beginning. And I'll say I made it 10, 15 minutes in. And then I was kind of like, you know what, it's just not entertaining me right now. So that's
well,
where
the
I
problem too is the larger, I think there's a kind of content that you and I like that I think is going away. Whether it's a talk radio show, whether it's, you still, I think you still dip in and out of Le Batard, or maybe you listen a lot. I listen to Stern, although I'm somehow, this is the first time they went on summer break. They go on summer break for like 3 months or something. I still have like 15 episodes I've got to get through. So I'm actually in okay shape with that show for a while. Somehow, I don't know what's going on with my lifestyle, but it just hasn't lent itself to me listening to as much of that show as I used to. But all that is to say, I feel like you and I are also just kind of like subconsciously on the hunt for a new show to latch onto or to fill our time with, because there used to just be a lot of shows out there that were the kinds of shows that we liked. And this Office Hours Live has a lot of promise to it because they take phone calls.
Yep.
And it's live. That's a rare thing in this day and age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like you and I are like the kind of content that we tend to gravitate towards is just, there's just less and less of it. I had a conversation when I was taking my hour-plus long Lyft ride, or I guess it was an Uber ride from Topeka, Kansas to Manhattan, Kansas. I got in the car and I was like, it was one of those things where I was like, this is going to be a really long ride. And I kind of am tempted to not engage a whole bunch at the beginning, because if I engage too much and then we get in a conversation, like, I don't know if I want to have an hour and 20-minute conversation where I'm potentially managing it, because that's just like a habit that I have where it's like whether I'm talking to the Lyft driver or Bridget Everett, who I'm on my way to talk to, honestly, the effort that I'm putting out to make the conversation happen is about equal. And I'm like, one of these things is my job, and the other is me getting a ride to my job. But that being said, the guy was actually really outgoing, and we ended up chatting. And he was a totally nice guy, and it was a fun chat. But we spent the whole time talking about Coast to Coast with Art Bell, because he used to love that show, and we were just like name dropping and talking about Richard C. Hoagland and Linda Moulton Howe and remote viewing and just all the stuff. And then we were kind of lamenting how there's just not as much of that. I mean, not that I want there to be more conspiracy alien talk radio shows, but just felt like there was a time where you could turn on your radio and there was just myriad talk shows, and some of them were okay, some of them were lousy, but there was just like a lot more of the kind of spoken word content that I just like appreciate and like and enjoy. And it's just like, I don't think they make much of it anymore.
Yeah. The more I think about everything I just blathered on about, and I'm not done giving this show a shot. And my actual hope is, because you're right, it's got all the elements, and also it is live. There is that live thing that kind of, when I was first listening to it, I was thinking about you because you and I had talked about somebody at some point has to sit down and watch this thing or listen to this thing from the beginning, not just see clips on YouTube to get a sense of it. And that's usually what I like. I don't like clip shows, like when I used to listen to the Kevin and Bean show, I like to try to catch on the radio so that I heard all the music and everything. I wanted to hear all the context around it, not just like the best bits or whatever. So the show has so many things going for it that I like, and it's got that like live Mulaney thing sort of. I was like, that's what that's why I started saying I was thinking of you, because of the obsession with the live Mulaney show, and you and I like both cringing at, but loving and embracing the awkwardness of it because it was live and because there wasn't a so-called net there. And so that's another thing I should remember for this. Like, maybe there's every couple of shows I might clip something out. The other day, just so you know, I clipped out part of our cake talk. I can tell you more about it later. Not a big deal, but a story I told about a cake that Genevieve made. I was like, yeah, I don't want that in there, and I cut it out. And I had the ability to do that because we weren't live. So I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm not. What I hope is a year from now, I look back on this conversation and I'm embarrassed about it because I'm a total hide head. I don't know what they call listeners of that show. That I'm totally into the culture and I get it now, and I'm speaking the language and I love it. But this one wasn't the one to get me there.
Well, I want you to get into the show because then you can report back on if he's doing a bit or not.
Yeah.
But that's going to take like watching many, many episodes.
Yes.
And to really figure it out. And I think you're just the person for that job. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your service. You may now board the airplane.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
This is actually a story you sent me a while ago, Andrew, but I've been thinking about it a lot. It's pretty interesting. It's basically the announcement by AMC that they are going to start showing more commercials, like just regular straight up advertising before the trailers for their before they show a film in the AMC. And it turns out the other biggies have been doing this for a while, apparently. Like this has been the case with Regal and I don't know who's the other one. Anyway,
those are the two I know. That's the one thing that I find sort of confusing about this is I thought that they all did this anyway. I mean, I go to a fair number of movies, and I don't hate it. I never complain about it, but I always sit down and watch like the Newbie or whatever, and it's got all these ads and all these other
with Maria Menounos.
That one has Maria Menounos. We did this whole conversation already, but like we used to call it the what do we? God, Vives and I would try to catch the 7. I think they called it the 7 or something like that before the Newbie. But anyway, so this didn't seem new to me. I guess they're just adding more ads, or one of these theater chains didn't have as many ads as the other. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, AMC apparently didn't. This is Michael Buckner writing in Variety. AMC's decision to increase the number of ads before screenings epitomizes the concept of short-term gain in exchange for long-term pain. This is, I think, kind of an op-ed piece because, Variety is an industry mag, and I think that the industry of making movies is upset about this. It provides the cinema giant with much-needed revenue at a time when the exhibitor is strapped for cash and laboring under nearly $4 billion in debt. And it comes as Hollywood is still struggling to consistently produce movies that people want to see. So I guess, they're going to just start showing, I think it's going to be significantly more ads before the trailers. And then the reason that the studios are mad about this is because, and this is the part that I didn't know until I read this article, I did not realize how big of a deal movie trailers are for getting people to go see that movie. It appears to be pretty much the number one sort of advertising vehicle. And there was a stat somewhere in this article that I can't find right in front of me, but like that essentially like a huge percentage of people when they go see a movie, it's because they saw a trailer for that movie at a different time when they're watching a different movie. And the studios are super pissed because they're like, look, if the movie's supposed to start at 1 p.m. and people start to learn that starting at 1 p.m. is a bunch of commercials, like advertisement, not even trailers, just straight up ads. That like, why would I come sit in a movie theater to watch a Silverado ad or whatever? People are just going to like start coming to the movies later and later, and then they're going to miss the trailers. And we desperately need them to see the trailers because it's how we get them to go to those movies. And so this is a huge problem for our business, is what they're saying.
That is the part that I find the most interesting. And by the way, I think you found a better article about this. I think when I stumbled on this the other day, it was some write-up that I remember sharing it with you, and it was like you had to crawl through some like really terrible writing to even get to the point of it. Maybe it was on Office Hours Live. I can't remember. But but this is really interesting. I did not know that thing about a trailer being the biggest motivator to get people to the theater. At first, I was going to balk at that. Balk? Is that I was going to, how could that possibly be? But I guess it is true because you're talking to somebody, you're talking to an audience that is already predisposed to go to the theater, right? Because
Yeah.
they're in the theater, and so
Right.
you know this is somebody who does leave their home television theater, you know what I mean, or whatever. You are talking to a group that is ready to leave their home and go into a theater, and so yes, shouldn't you see this new Indiana Jones reboot? That's really fascinating. But the thing that was in the article I read too that you just mentioned, which is this idea that it's going to retrain audiences to show up at a different time. I've been seeing that and didn't realize what I was seeing. Like for me, going to the movies, which I like to do, and it's not like some rare event, it still is like, I still have a bit of childish kind of thrill of going to the
Wonder.
movies. Yeah, wonder is maybe a step too far, but like I still am in the mindset that I've been in my whole life, which is this is fun. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to get there early. I'm going to see all the trailers. I'm going to have a huge thing of popcorn on my lap, and it's going to be half gone at the very least before the movie even begins. Like, yes, people have been complaining about commercials before movies. That never really bothered me that much. I just always get there and I chomp on my popcorn and I watch the whole thing. And people aren't like me. I'm learning that more and more in life. And one thing I've been noticing, especially with like I think it's also, I'm just realizing this now, it might be that combined with choosing your seats in advance. You might, back
that's
in
also
the day,
in the article.
Really, you probably would have to get to the theater, and you wanted to get there early, so you wanted to pick your seat. But now, one thing I've been noticing is I'm there at the movie theater. I'm watching Numi. I'm watching Maria. I'm eating my popcorn. Nobody's in the theater.
Heartbreak is feeling good.
Heartbreak is feeling great. And I'm like, how am I the only person in the theater right now? And then at the last minute, sometimes while the movie has already started, the theater is filling up around me. This happened with that movie Friendship, which I went to see myself because it was like it started off being an empty theater. Then a few people trickled in and they all sat around me. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Nice.
But anyway, sort of. But anyway, I guess we are already seeing audiences adapt to this. And it's kind of, that affects me more than watching the Silverado ad.
Yeah, and you're also on the record as not liking. I mean, I guess there's a difference between being able to reserve your seat and the sort of like restaurantification and living roomification of the theater, which I know you are very, very much against.
Yeah, I don't like choosing your seat in advance. I like walking.
You don't even like choosing your seat.
I like walking in, taking a lay of the land, seeing who's around there. Do you want to sit there? Do you want to sit there? Because when you have to choose your seat in advance, there are rules like you can't leave one seat between you, because like the computer's like, well, then we can't sell that one seat in between these two people. Like it just seems way too corporate control over my decision making.
You're such a purist. I would think that you would, because sometimes you're not a fan of kind of chaotic situations or unknown situations or situations where politeness kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's
like
interesting.
you're walking towards the seat and someone else is walking towards it, or am I going to sit right in? I feel bad when I get in the theater and I sit right in front of someone else. This actually happened when Rebecca and I went to see Friendship. Also the last movie I saw in a theater, I guess 28 years later. But I feel bad because you walk in and like, you know, obviously like what I'm looking for is what everyone's looking for, which is middle of the row of seats. Not so like, so in the actual middle of the row, because you're centered with the screen, but then not so close to the screen that is too close, but not in the back of the theater. There is a recognizable sweet spot of kind of middle. And of course, there was a couple people there before us, and they're sitting in what their version of middle is. So now I'm going to have to go. My best thing I can do now is to go right in front of them, one row closer to the screen, which is still fine, and then in front of them because they have their middle. Now I'm middle plus one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I sit down, and what I always try to do is, because there's a million empty seats in the theater, and now I'm going to go sit right in front of them like a jerk. But it's like I also want to have the best view. So then I slouch way down. I try to like signal to them that I'm going to really slouch it out this movie, so they needn't fear that this robust, virile, 6'1" man is going to be like lurking in front of them. Can you lurk in front of someone? I feel like lurking is inherently done from the rear.
That's a really good point. I was lurking in front of him. I don't know.
I feel like I don't think that's lurking anymore. But anyway.
But you know, you're right though. It's like I wouldn't want that on an airplane, right? Like I don't want to fly Southwest. I don't want to like go on an airplane and take a lay of the land and choose my seat. That sounds awful. So I don't know why. I mean, you know, the choosing the seat thing, I don't want to over index on my irritation with that. I would prefer just to go in, but that's the least. I hate the big cushy chairs that are just filled with other people's farts and everybody just like looking like they're in there. They all look like Wall-E. Remember in Wall-E, everybody's just like on like
on a
Barca-Lounger,
on a Lazy Boy
everywhere. Yeah, save it for home.
By the way, the third cinema chain is Cinemark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of course. And Cinemark, weren't they kind of on the cutting edge of the ones that bring you like serve beer or bring you food, or am I mistaken?
Maybe. I don't even know if I've been to a Cinemark, but this is just in the article. They're saying basically that Regal and Cinemark were already doing this. They were already playing more and more commercials before, and that this is, like I said, this is AMC just finally getting on a board with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the movie industry and the mall industry are two industries that I can't seem to wrap my head around. Are they dying? Are they doing okay? Because I think we always hear about the demise of the American mall, and yet there's still tons of malls around. And when I go to them, like Becca and I go out to the one that's like Washington Square Mall out in the kind of greater Portland area, it's friggin' packed with people. You know, don't you feel like you were hearing articles about how the mall was just like officially dead and no one's going to the mall anymore? And then it's like, I don't know, it's full of stores that are selling stuff and there's tons of people there.
I
And
find
feel like
that interesting. I have not experienced that. Like, I have definitely seen like theaters. I think we've heard the demise of theaters that's been coming for a long time. But then 2 summers ago, you just had everybody out to watch the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer. You know, I mean, what a summer. I mean, I can't remember a summer of movies like that since like Jurassic Park or Batman or something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Malls, I just haven't seen, and it might just be I guess if I were to head over to the east side and I'd go to like Bellevue Square Mall,
Square.
yeah, that would be, and that's kind of more what I used to think of as more kind of a fancy mall, an upscale mall. Maybe that's not true though. I don't know.
Well, or like you've got University Village not too far from you.
Yeah, that's true.
That's super fancy to me.
But like, a mall,
I guess I feel like,
I guess that's a mall.
Well, that's a good question. It's because it's so broken up and it doesn't have big hallways. Like it's not like the Northgate Mall of my childhood, which was, the rumor was it was the first mall in America. That was always the rumor about Northgate Mall, because basically the weather in Seattle made it such that they wanted to have this big kind of shared covered indoor walk space. I don't know if that was ever verified or not.
We tried to look that up on the show, and we got some clarification. I think what it was, I'm shooting from the hip here. I'm not looking it up, but I remember we had this conversation. We looked it up, and I think what we learned was it wasn't technically the first mall, but it was the first enclosed mall because of the reasons that you're talking about. And that actually gets to what I wanted to say about University Village. Like, I don't think of that as a mall because I don't think of the Grove in LA as a mall, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, because you're not in one building with a bunch of stores. You're in an area where a whole bunch of stores, like my parents have that practically across the street from where they live, and they absolutely love it. And it's like Crocker Park, and it's got a movie theater, and it's got a million stores, and a Gap, and a this, and it's all outdoors, and there's a fountain. But that to me isn't what I think of when I think of as a mall, where you walk into a building and there are a whole bunch of stores connected and potentially a food court or something like that.
Well, that's the funny part, is that it seems like the original idea of the mall was to make it so that, it was covered and enclosed and you could walk to all these different stores, different kinds of stores, and you never had to get rained on or snowed on or sunburned or whatever. And now that's like, the trend is totally away from that. The trend is to build a series of different, like, California pizza kitchens that are near an Apple store, that are near but it's all kind of beige, and you have to walk outside between the things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's strange that that's the trend, because it seems to be anathema to the entire concept of what a mall was supposed to be.
Yeah, but it is nice, again, when you think about the Grove, especially because the weather in LA is, you don't have to deal with weather, so you can go to the Grove, and it does seem like an upscale experience. I told you that some of the best bathroom usage I ever had was at, like, I don't even know if it was technically the Grove or like this hotel that was off of the Grove, and it was like you would go in there. There was not an attendant.
I'm surprised that this happened multiple times for you.
At the Grove, I think because once I clocked it being there, I went back to it. It was so nice. They had, like, each stall was like a tiny little mini apartment, like with a door that went floor to ceiling. It was like I lived in there for a couple of weeks, and then they eventually told me I had to leave.
You know, the places that have, believe it or not, really good bathrooms are the casinos in Vegas, at least the kind of nicer casinos.
I believe
they
that.
also have that like single stall, but the door goes all the way down to the floor, so you are like completely private.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, and they're just like, I remember in my youth being in Vegas and, you know, it'd be like just eating all manner of just horrific food and drink, and then just being like, I'm sure already drunk by 11 in the morning, and then just feeling the call of nature, and then just sitting in some like really nice, cleaned, very private stall and just thinking, this is the life. Did you go, so do you have the Grove, but then did you also go over to the farmer's market, because the Fairfax farmer's market, because those are kind of connected. I think the farmer's market is really where it's at. They used to have this little,
I don't think
like,
are they connected, Luke, for sure? I mean, you know LA better than me.
I don't know.
I think
they're,
of them
are they
as
close to each other?
You know, I feel like we've had this conversation before, and I was loud wrong about it, so I want to be very careful here. But the farmer's market has more of a definitely an old school feel to it because it's been there for so long, and it is an open air market-y thing. Is it pretty close to the Grove?
Yeah, it looks like they're both on West 3rd. I think they kind of are because I have memories of kind of going between the two, but the farmer's market used to have this. You know me, I'm not a huge beer guy, but for some reason I got into it for like a summer or two in LA, and I would go to that farmer's market with my ex, and we would kind of do a little shopping, and then somehow we'd always end up sitting. This feels like a very Andrew behavior. We'd be sitting at this like kind of beer counter that would have like the game on. And like you'd sit down to have like one beer, and then next thing you know, it'd be about 4 or 5 beers, and you'd be like really invested in like some soccer match.
Yeah, that
you're
you
talking to
wouldn't
some
usually
guy.
care about. Yeah,
because the guy next to you's into it, and now you're chatting, and it's just like a warm LA day, and you're like 4 to 5 beers deep now, just like sitting at this kind of counter in the farmer's market. Like those are some of those moments where I was just like, this city is awesome.
Yes.
I love this place.
Yeah. Sorry, I was wrong about the. I forgot. And again, this is driving me bananas because I think we had the same conversation. I said that they weren't close together, and I think Hollywood Mike wrote in to say, yeah, they're right. And I'm looking at a map now. This makes total sense.
You know what's behind them?
Is it? Well, I was wondering.
Television City. That was where that was where the first things I ever recorded for CBS was in Television City. And when I tell you, it was like my mind exploded. Like I went from, you know, not having any association with CBS to Mo Rocca kindly dropping my name with some of the bosses there to them saying, okay, send in your little ideas for a commentary. I sent in 5 ideas, I think. Didn't hear back for months. Thought, well, that didn't go well. And then just get an email like, can you come to LA to record these tomorrow? And I was like, I'd never like been in a TV studio. I'd never read from a teleprompter. I had no idea how any of this worked, but I was pretending like I knew how to do it all because I didn't want them to take the opportunity away.
And then you were like, stop watching video games. Go outside and touch grass.
Exactly. Hey, I was ahead of that whole thing of dissing Twitch.
Twitch? Are people dissing Twitch now?
No, but I mean, people are all about grounding. I just mean the idea that, like, you know, maybe our lives have become overly digital. But I just remember, like, the travel person goes, like, is the Beverly Wilshire okay for you to stay in? And I'm like, I was like, what?
Okay.
It's like
I was like, fine.
Yeah, it's like
is
the
that
fanciest
the best?
hotel. It's like, if that's all you can do. And I remember, like, staying in that hotel and then like a car coming and getting me and taking me to a place that's called Television City.
Yeah, right. It sounds like something out of a
Wes
Verhoeven
Anderson
movie, or
something.
right. Just like, well,
and then
you
I
have to
get
go to
there,
Television City for that.
Yeah, and that CBS headquarters is up in Burbank now, but this is where it used to be, and it's like you're walking around and it's just like people are lined up to get into The Price is Right with Drew Carey, and then you just see various actors and people walking around, and there's posters of all the CBS shows. I was just like completely agog. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever been a part of in my life. And then I went in there to say that people should stop being on Twitch, and then everybody wished me and my whole family a swift death when I got on Kotaku. I remember those days of Kotaku.
Or however you say it, which is, I think that's the first time I've ever tried to say that out loud. My biggest regret of my time in LA, I'm not somebody who goes around like regretting not doing certain things. Like, I wish I could have done this while I had the opportunity. But I do wish that I had sought out an opportunity to go to a taping of a game show. I do love game shows, and that'd be fun. I head over to Burbank. I don't know where they do them now, but that would have been a fun thing.
I think they do them on the Warner Brothers lot. I don't know, but I think that could be arranged if you're ever down there.
That's
Andrew,
true. Yeah, no, it's.
I can make a call, and if it's a CBS project. I can probably try to get you.
I can make a call to Ticketmaster. Oh, suddenly feel guilty playing Tim Heidecker here.
There's a right way to rock and a wrong way to roll. You can just listen to your soul. Just remember that life is number one. You can be having so much fun. Just remember that life is much fun. You can be number one.
Are you ready for a Blur's Day? Have you been?
I am so ready. I was born ready.
Have you been waiting all day for a Blur's Day night?
I sure
That's
have.
what's going on here.
I was having thoughts to. I don't know why. It's the middle of summer. The baseball season is about to ramp back up. By the way, big weekend plans. Big Houston
big
series.
Weekend.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, that starts tomorrow, right?
I think it might. Does it start tonight?
Oh no, I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for that. Okay.
I don't think I'll ever be emotionally ready. But I don't know why. In all of that, a man's thoughts turned to football season. I was just like, oh man, it's almost time to report to minicamp, and then it's going to be preseason, and then it's going to be real season. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be making vegetarian chili, watching football. Why can't I ever just live in the now despite all the tattoos trying to remind me to be present? Why can't I ever just be in the now?
That is interesting because you're somebody who is very, very focused on not fast forwarding summer. I feel like because I know I'm more like because I really love. I think I love fall more than I love summer, and I like summer. I'm having a great summer right now, but I noticed that the blackberries are popping. That apple tree I told you about is still producing. These apples are getting beautiful, and they haven't pulled them all down. So maybe I was just wrong about the apple tree owners being protective of their apples because I've been eating a lot of neighborhood apples.
Nice.
Anyway, I always associate those things with a little bit more like the end of the summer, and I'm like, it's only July. Should these things be blooming already? But that doesn't bother me because I like the fall. But you are usually one to say, don't even talk about the fall in July.
Well, I do. Yeah, I love me the summer, and that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why I'm somehow speeding through it in my mind. Like I should be soaking up every second of this because what I can tell you is that when it's like next November or something, I'm going to be like just clinically depressed, and like when it's getting dark at 4:30, I'm going to be like, oh, I should have enjoyed the summer more. So like I feel like I'm betraying myself by my brain getting excited about football season.
Well,
anyway,
let your brain be your brain. By the way, if anybody would like to wish anybody else or themselves a happy birthday, email me, Andrew@tbtl.net. Put birthday or Blur's Day in the subject line and write a little message. Natalie says, happy Blur's Day shout out to my amazing sister, Emma, in Minneapolis.
Oh, we're going to Minneapolis on Sunday before we go to Friendship, Wisconsin.
That's what we're flying into. She's smart, creative, an amazing mom, and most importantly, she's a proud 10 thanks to me. Introducing her to TBTL is one of my greatest accomplishments. It's become a shared language, a mix of drops, hot takes, and inside jokes that always help us feel a little bit more connected. That's really sweet. Thank you for that, and happy Blur's Day to Emma. You get an Emma. You get an Emma.
Daytime Emma Award-winning podcaster Luke Burbank.
Howard says, happy Blur's Day to Julie in Lake Stevens, the archest of arch nemeses and cheeriest of cheerleaders when it comes to the New York Times crossword and the dreaded connections game. A little side. A lot of people are wondering, did I get purple first yesterday? Yes, I did. Of course I did. Also,
wait a sec. That's in Connections?
That's in Connections. You have to group those.
Is purple the hardest?
Yeah, purple's the hardest. So it's a little spring in your step if you get purple first.
I see.
I think it was something, because I'm onto their tricks now. I've been secretly playing. I boycotted Connections for a long time, and so now I secretly play, but I don't share my results with anybody except in the middle of the Blur's Day segment, apparently.
But you still do, you buried it here in the Blur's Day section where no one will find it.
Yeah.
So, but you do, you still do Wordle, right? What's your streak?
I do Wordle
currently?
every day, but the streak got busted by not Corer. Corer was last summer's atrocity. What was the one that it broke many of us upon the shores or many of us crashed upon the shores of whatever word that was. But right now it says my streak is. I solved it in 3 today, so that's pretty good. And I can't tell you what it was, but it says my streak is 60, a mere 60 days in a row. So I need to get to 180. So I need to get to 182 to break my streak. So not even halfway there. What were we talking about? We were talking about Julie and Lake Stevens.
Yeah, we were.
I don't know if Julie got purple first yesterday, but probably. Howard says Julie, also a phenomenal and patient resume coach. All made possible because of a TBTL 10s meetup. Hey, love that we helped with this friendship. Power out, friendo. Happy Blur's Day, Julie, from Howard and us. Sarah says, wishing of... Oh, this is our pal, Sarah, the realtor here in Seattle. Wishing a very happy 8th birthday to my first 5, Ryan. You're the best adventure buddy and big brother to Arlo. Your dad and I are so proud to be your parents. Oh, and... Chicken Jockey.
Oh, sure. I could have...
You have that there?
Chicken Jockey.
Wow, I actually put too much English on that.
I was DMing with our friend Sarah yesterday because she. I tell you what, I should be getting a commission on these friggin' stupid Meta glasses because my buddy Evan is like buying them now. Sarah bought them apparently, and she's loving them. Except one of her kids, maybe it's Arlo, the little one, was like completely commandeered the glasses and was manhandling them in a way that looked very dangerous. Like they could get broken.
Yeah, not dangerous for the child. Dangerous for the
glasses.
No.
The child will be fine.
Kids heal. Happy Blur's Day, Ryan. Chris says, another happy Blur's Day to my Oregon State alum and Oregon Coast loving dad, Ken. Happy Blur's Day, Ken. Love, Chris and Kathy. Isaac says, hi there, I hope it's not too late. This one just came in this morning. Hi there, I hope it's not too late to get in a Blur's Day shout out for my amazing wife, Trisha.
Aww.
Happy Blur's Day, Trisha. She's a longtime listener and donor and huge fan of her birthday. No. I'm sorry. She's not a huge fan of her birthday. That's really funny. She's a longtime listener and donor and a huge fan, and her birthday is on Sunday. Her family just wants to let her know that we love her and appreciate how hard she works to keep this clown car on the road.
Aww. Cute. That's, I think, one of the highest... That's one of the greatest demonstrations of love. I mean, it says in the Bible, of course, greater love hath no man than he lay down his life for his friend. Mm-hmm. This is right underneath that, which is greater love hath no partner than to email into some weird-ass podcast that you know they like.
Exactly. What verse
to
is
tell
that again?
us to say happy birthday to them.
What verse is that so I can write it on my baseball cap?
Easy, Clayton.
Okay. I was wrong about his ERA. He's not having as bad of a season as I said yesterday. A couple of people let me know that.
You just want him to be having a bad season.
I do think that it's because I get mostly what I read about him is from people who hate him. So I think that a lot of people were angry that he made it to the All-Star game. But I do not apologize for calling out his bigotry.
Well, you know what's crazy? Well, actually, that's not that crazy. I was Googling him, and then I'm seeing a picture of him at some sort of a charity event. He looks much younger. I think he might be there with, like, his wife. And then he's with the actor Eric Stonestreet, who was on Modern Family, and who himself is not, as I understand it, a gay man, but he plays a gay man on the show. And I would put him in the company of people who think that we should all have equal rights and, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like weird to see Clayton Kershaw and a guy who I associate with sort of, a gay character and an equal rights thing standing on the same red carpet, smiling broadly together, because it's like, who would have known that he would be writing some bullshit on his hat because, heaven forbid, he's wearing a Pride hat from MLB years later.
Well, that's why the thing, and I got some emails from folks saying, like, have grace towards this guy or whatever. I'm like, there's not a lot of grace coming from that side towards others. Now, I will say that Clayton Kershaw, as far as I know, no, like, damning evidence of, like, him saying literally hateful things, but, like, I don't know, there was some queer night where there was some like group of like, I can't remember what they were called, like the queer nuns or something. I have that wrong. And he was like really offended by that because he's a man of the cloth. He's a man of religion. He's not a man of the cloth. He's a man of the glove. But anyway, so he like really pushed to have either his team or the
was
MLB.
it that Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence or whatever?
Thank you.
That's
yes.
that kind of like particular group that's been around forever in the San Francisco area. Right?
Oh, see, I didn't even know about that, but I know that like when they had some night where they attended, so then he pushed the team or the league to have like family and prayer night earlier in the calendar because of that. And again, so all of his stuff tends to be like kind of religion based.
Yeah.
But when your religion, which is like really something that is a very personal thing, if you believe in something that I can't put eyes on, if your religion is, oh, I can't allow the rainbow to be anything but a covenant of God. Like, because I know if a little kid is in a kindergarten class, right? I haven't been thinking about this, Luke. If a little kid is in a kindergarten class and they draw a picture of their family with a rainbow over the family, and it has nothing to do with religion at all, it's just because rainbows are fun to draw, I don't think Kershaw's taking out a Sharpie and writing the Bible quote on there. It's clearly because he doesn't want gay people to live their life freely. Like, there's just no getting around that. That's why you write that verse on there. And if it's because of religion...
The verse he wrote was Genesis 9:12-16, which is basically talking about the rainbow that God showed Noah.
Yes, the covenant, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, you can say, no, I just believe that the rainbow should only be used in biblical context. I'm like, yeah, but are you writing that on the car wash across the street that happens to have a rainbow archway that the cars go through? No, it's because it's directly linked to this thing that you don't like. It's just...
Anyway, happy birthday, Clayton Kershaw.
It's been like I had my little... It's funny. I said like 2 sentences yesterday, and then it's been living in my head for 24 hours, obviously. Then suddenly in the middle of the Blurs days, we just get this like blister of Kershaw talk. I'm sorry.
That was me. I brought that up.
No, it's clearly, though, I've been shadow boxing. Kelly, this is the final Blurs Day message, and I love this one because this is from our friend Kelly saying, "Happy Blurs Day to my dad, Rusty. Our dad is kind and accepting of everyone."
Oh.
See?
So it's kind of an anti-Kershaw.
Rusty knows the way. Our dad is kind and accepting of everyone and truly badass. Lifting weights. Wow, the music went away, Luke. I guess that we talked about Kershaw a little bit
I think
longer
Tim
than
Heidecker heard what you were saying about
it. I know.
Of all the days.
I know. I told you I might leave it in.
Can we start tomorrow off with ridged chips?
I love Tim Heidecker. I'm going to love that show. That's my new goal, is to love that show.
Oh, by the way, you were absolutely right, Andrew. The first game of the Houston series is tomorrow night.
Okay, yeah, I had a feeling. Okay.
Yes, your feeling was correct.
We are going to do this without the music underneath. A very special Blurs Day. Happy Blurs Day to my dad, Rusty, says Kelly. Our dad is kind and accepting of everyone and truly badass, lifting weights daily and carrying my stuff for me still at the age of 75. Our dad has had a big impact on a lot of people through his work, and I was always happy to share him with my degenerate friends throughout the years. He's the best to his cat, Emmett, and constant companion to our mom, Ranting Mary. Can we get that to stick? She will hate it. This, of course, is our pal Mary, who writes into the Rants and Raves column.
Oh, yeah, the ranting and raving.
Now, listen, Luke, I have had a little story about... First of all, happy Blurs Day to Rusty, for sure. I don't want to steal the spotlight away from Rusty, but I do want to tell you about Mary. So, Mary has been volunteering... When somebody named Mary volunteers, it's called volunteering.
Yes.
She's been volunteering at the pop-up that I do on Sundays.
Nice.
And we've had chances just to like really hang out. I'm a huge fan of Mary and have been ever since I realized that she writes into the Seattle Times Rant and Rave column so much and often gets published, something that I have not been able to do. Here's where I think you might be interested. About 2 weeks ago, I realized, man, I haven't read a rant or a rave in a while. We were really checking it out every day there. So I opened up my phone. I think it was like a Thursday. I open up my phone and I just start checking out some of the rants and raves that have been published recently. And I read one and it says something like, the headline for the whole column is, Reader wants you to stop calling your pets fur babies, or something along the lines of that. And it was a very short rant, and it just said, like, if your baby has fur, your baby has a problem. Call your pets, or something like that. It was actually less judgmental. I thought it was really interesting that the ranter did not call out people. It only called out the behavior. You know what I mean? It was written in a very deft way, I thought, where you're not being insulting or saying like you shouldn't do this. It was just kind of like a rant towards the term fur baby. And I read that and I said,
That's Mary.
That's Mary. That's got to be Mary. And I opened up my email app on my phone, Luke, and I started to write to Mary to say, was this you? I think this was you. And then I closed it. I literally deleted it and said, you know what? I'll probably see Mary on Sunday. I'll just ask her then. About 2 hours later, I get an email from Mary. Did you see my rant? It was published. Did you see my rant? She's like, boy, the readers don't like this one. Apparently, I didn't get to see the backlash, but apparently the comment section was on fire with people saying, I'll call my fur babies if you want.
Yeah, we've learned that the hard way. Do not get between people and their love for their pets.
Yes, but what I love is, and again, happy Blur's Day to Rusty. But I also got to give a put up to Mary to write with such a distinct voice that I can now read in an anonymous. Now, let's face it, not a lot of people are probably getting published in that, so maybe there's always a 25% chance it's Mary anyway. But I was able to recognize the voice immediately with hardly any doubt that was Mary's rant.
Does this sound like Mary from yesterday's Rant and Rave? Rant to the man who shoplifted a $15 croquet set from my yard sale, which was a fundraiser for a nonprofit community chorus. Rave to all the generous people who bought stuff and donated.
Oh, that does not sound like Mary, because Mary would have told me if she had a yard sale.
Does this sound like her? Rant to scammers. I am so tired of receiving emails and text messages from strangers, parenthetically scammers, telling me how they can help improve my website. I don't have a website.
I get at least 10 emails a day from people who want to tell me how I can boost my podcast.
I block the senders, but others keep sending the same message. I really want to respond to them, but I know better. Arg! You know the one that I'm getting right now constantly? It's a scam call that is something about a loan that they're always like, we just got all the approval. We just need you to sign to get your, they try to act like I've been trying to take out a loan somewhere, which I haven't.
Okay.
But I don't know how I got on their list, but they are just bombarding me with calls every day. And it's, I can see it come in as spam, and so I delete it or I decline the call, but then it goes to voicemail, and then it's some person trying to tell me about this, about the paperwork on this loan. And then I report it as spam. Let's see. Here we go. This is one of them. Let's see if this will play.
To speak with me or someone from underwriting directly. Your file is nearly complete. We just need to confirm a couple quick details. If you've already secured funding elsewhere, that's totally fine. Just let us know. If not, this approval is set to expire in the next few days, but you're more than welcome to reapply anytime. Again, to move forward, press 2 to connect with underwriting. Or call us back.
Now, do you think that's AI?
Oh, that's interesting. Why? Yeah, I guess why wouldn't you use AI if you're running that?
It sounds pretty good. If it's AI, it's pretty convincing. It sounded pretty human to me.
Yeah, it does sound human. I will agree. It's actually not a bad read either. By the way, here's the rant in question. Rant to the phrase fur babies. If your baby has fur, seek medical help. If your pet has fur, all is well. Try not to mix them up. I gotta say, I was expecting people to really come after in the comments, but these are mostly, some people are just kind of like, I like my fur babies more than my real babies, ha ha ha. But
it's fairly tame.
It's relatively tame, yeah. I think also, I'm sure the Times probably has pretty strong moderation. But anyway, happy Blur's Day, everybody.
Happy Blur's Day, everybody. That is going to do it for today's episode. Tomorrow will be our final show before the TV telethon. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to be making some cool announcements about the thon, the theme, the thank you gifts. I was looking at some mock-ups yesterday. I was looking at some stuff that has not gone live yet, Andrew, that you were putting together. And I was filled with delight at the stuff that, this thon has been quite a production, honestly, putting it together between the Friendship Wisconsin thing, the billboard, and then the thank you gifts are are, there's some pretty involved elements to it. So I am really psyched about this, actually.
Yeah, me too. In fact, I sort of vague blue skied yesterday on our TBTL account. I said, I know it's still only Wednesday, but we're very excited about Friday's show. So let me reiterate that. Now, if you've listened to this far into Thursday's show, past the Blurs days and the Kers days, which is what I call it when I take a little break in the middle of the Blurs days to rant about Clayton Kershaw, then you're probably going to tune in tomorrow anyway. But tomorrow's going to be a really special show. We're going to have John on the show, and he's going to walk through this year's thank you gifts, which all surround a theme, a very exciting theme. And tomorrow's going to be a really big show to launch us right into the thon on Monday.
Absolutely. So please do join us for that. In the meantime, have a great Thursday, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
Etiquette in the workplace is changing at an alarming rate. But don't worry, I'm here to make sure you know the correct business hug for the right occasion. Let's begin now.
Power out.